Hello everyone, Mr. Everything English here. Please subscribe, please like, please share, please follow my Instagram because there's excellent content everywhere, if I must say so myself. Now, today I want to try something quite large, if you like. I want to try running through the entire Inspector Calls play within the next 8 to 10 minutes. Let's do it. So, Inspector Calls begins Act 1. Act 1? Yes, Act 1. It begins with, I almost tried to think about my birthday. It begins with the Burling family sitting there having a dinner and they are celebrating the engagement of Sheila to Gerald. So, Mr. Burling and Mrs. Burling, they're the heads of the family. Eric and Sheila are the two children. Gerald is Sheila's fiance and Gerald is from a rich family called the Crofts. So they're celebrating the engagement, and from the very outset, we see that the men are the ones in control, the women are the ones who are very observant, very obedient. So they do what they want, and a clear example of that is when Gerald gives Sheila the ring and she replies saying, "Is it the one that you wanted me to have?" She has no say in it. I'm going quick because otherwise this video will be an hour long. Then, now this is a very strong part in the text, capitalism is shown through Mr. Burling. Mr. Burling talks about how his engagement of Sheila and Gerald, for him, is more of a business transaction. So he's almost seeing that transaction as almost a way of making money, a way of benefiting, where he says how hopefully the Crofts and the Burlings can now work together. That's patriarchy. That's patriarchy because he's almost selling his daughter, just the way Capulet sells Juliet in Romeo and Juliet. Now, in this act also, before the inspector arrives, Mr. Burling talks about how every man must make his own way, how every man should look after himself, we shouldn't care about other people before we care about ourselves. He expresses strong capitalist views, then ding dong, in walks the inspector. Now the inspector is the complete opposite. The inspector does not follow those same ideas. He's somebody who believes that we are all one body. We should all take care of each other. Therefore, there's like a complete battle going off. Now he arrives and tells them that a young girl has died. This young girl being Eva Smith. Yes, this young girl being Eva Smith, and she apparently committed suicide. And the first person he questions is Mr. Burling, because Mr. Burling 2 years ago hired her at her works, or at his works more. And he talks about how Mr. Burling sacked her because Eva was asking for more money. She was asking for a raise. And because she was asking for a raise, she became a nuisance. Not only because she was affecting his profit, but at the same time, she was a woman. Women did not ask, women did not rise up, women did not have a voice. So it was very bizarre for Mr. Burling to see what she was doing. So what does he do? He gives her the raise. Nope, he sacks her. He sacks her because she's a nuisance. And off she goes. Now, imagine dominoes falling one by one. Mr. Burling is the first domino that makes her fall. So he is the start of her problems. After she gets sacked from Mr. Burling's factory, she then goes to work at a shop called Millwards, which is a clothes shop. And she's there as a sales assistant. So for example, if you go to the town, the Arndale, and you've got people working in Topshop, Topman, River Island, that's what she was. Yeah, so she'd walk around, make sure people have got their clothes on properly and whatnot. Clothes on properly? They sound like they walk around naked. Alright. So, at this store, Sheila and Mrs. Burling one day decide to pay a visit. Sheila being Mrs. Burling's daughter and Mrs. Burling being Mr. Burling's wife. Now, as Sheila was trying on a dress that didn't really look that nice on her, she claimed that in the mirror, in the reflection, she felt that Eva was smiling, was smirking. And she felt that this smirking was an insult. She felt that she was smirking because it was an insult to Sheila. So she complains to the manager and says, I want her to be sacked. Now, because Mrs. Burling, Sheila, and Mr. Burling are a rich family, they sack Eva Smith. They had no choice because the Burlings bring a lot of money. Again, that's capitalism. Money, benefit over justice. So again, she gets sacked. Sheila, at this point in the play, is quite hysteric. She can't believe what she's done, and she is the second contribution to the death of Eva Smith. The act ends with Gerald coming into it a little bit. So the inspector says that Eva Smith changed her name from Eva Smith to Daisy Renton, At that point, Gerald kind of wakes up. He's like, oh my god, that name's familiar. He doesn't say it, he reflects it in his body language. And Sheila begins to suspect that her fiance knows a Daisy Renton, a Eva Smith. And that's where the act ends. Act 2 begins with Sheila asking Gerald what role he had to play. Gerald denies it. And the important part here is we see the change in the character of Sheila very, very quickly. Sheila is no longer observant, is no longer obedient, is no longer doing as she's told. She's got a voice. She's speaking up for herself. She's telling Gerald what she feels. And then the inspector questions Gerald as to his role in the death, and we learn that Gerald was keeping Eva as his mistress. Mistress meaning, I'll take care of you, you repay me with sex. That's the relationship they had. And this was whilst he was engaged to Sheila. Now following this, Gerald, it appears, actually cared about Eva Smith. Gerald, it appears, actually had some kind of, not love, it could be love, but some kind of affection for Eva Smith, Daisy Renton. And at this point, Sheila hands him the ring back. Now this ring, you could argue, is a symbol of power. It's a sign of control. So when he gives her the ring in Act 1, you're mine, I control you. She takes it off, gives it back to him. She is no longer under his control. So after Gerald, we then move on to Mrs. Burling, who denies to know Eva Smith, Daisy Renton at all. But we learn that Mrs. Burling has a charity, and Daisy Renton, while she was pregnant, at this point we're not sure whose kid, she went to the charity asking for help. However, Mrs. Burling said to her that I'm not going to help you because she wasn't impressed by her case. She didn't believe her case. She thought she was lying because she said that I stopped taking money from the boy who got me pregnant, and Mrs. Burling couldn't believe that a girl as poor as her had any morals, any beliefs. Anyway, Mrs. Burling ends the act by saying that if anyone is to blame, it is the boy, the man who got her pregnant. Now who's this? We have one character left, and this is where Act 3 begins. Act 3 begins with the questioning of Eric. Eric gets her pregnant. Now we see the hypocrisy. Mrs. Burling was first saying that we should punish the man that got her pregnant. But when she finds out it's her son, she backtracks. Where is justice? Where is right and wrong? It doesn't exist. So we learn that Eric had an affair with her, Eric got her pregnant, and Eric stole money from the Burling family, Burling company, and gave it to her. The important part here is this. The only thing Mr. Burling cares about, forget him getting the girl pregnant, the only thing Mr. Burling cares about is the fact that Eric stole money. Capitalist, capitalist, capitalist. Money, 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 benefit, benefit, benefit. The inspector leaves. Before he leaves, he says to them that if you guys don't learn your lesson, if you guys don't fix the way you are, you will burn in fire, blood, and anguish. Now this is important. He's almost telling them that you may get away with your crimes right now, but when you die, you'll be punished by God, possibly. Once he leaves, the Burling family is broken apart. They are destroyed. On one hand, you've got the Burling parents. On the other hand, you've got the kids. And they are at loggerheads. Sheila and Eric can't believe what they've done. Mr. and Mrs. Burling are saying it wasn't us, it's not our fault. At that point, Gerald arrives and tells them it was a fake inspector. But does that change anything? That's the big debate. Does it matter whether or not it was a real inspector? And then, because they find out it was not a real inspector, they think they're free, they think they're okay. But then the phone rings and they are told that a girl has died and an inspector is on their way to the house. Now, two things I want to end it on. In my opinion, the inspector is J.B. Priestley, who is the writer of the play, personified in the play. He comes back, he personifies socialism, and he comes back to tell them everything that is wrong with capitalism. Number two, the reason the phone rings at the end is because the family did not learn the lesson. They had a chance. Because they didn't have a chance, now they will burn in fire, blood, and anguish. Now I know, ladies and gentlemen, that was a very quick run through, but I really wanted to make it concise. I wanted to make a video that you don't just sit there for hours and hours trying to figure out what Inspector Calls is about. 10 minutes, I think. I've not seen the time, but it's about 10 minutes. I will do future videos going into detail on the character of Berling, Eric, and so on. For this video, maybe play it, pause it, make notes. If there's any specific things you want to know about the play, drop it in the comments below. Follow me on Instagram, where I do a lot of my posts. Thank you for following. It's been Mr. Everything English.